on up there.
And then that's,
And
that's on. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Did you put a one on the end? Present. P-R-E-S-E-N. One, yeah, that's bad. Yeah, hold on. Should wait a minute. Chambers presentation. In? All right, we're ready. It's 4:32 on May the 23rd, 2024. I'd like to bring this meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Start out with roll call. Blaine Johnston. Pam Jagosh. Jack Keller.
Here.
Heather Giacomo.
Here.
Patrick Giddings here. Ken Freeze.
Here.
And Deborah Pitts.
Here.
Next up is adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Adoption of the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. Adoption of the agenda passed. Approval of the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes from our April 25th, 2024 meeting.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Motion has been made to approve and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. approval of monthly financial statements. Do we have anything, Ms. Schiffler?
Mr. Chair, we did have the final invoice for the walking tour guide, so that's been paid. So that was the only invoice for last month.
Great. So approval of monthly financial statements, we'll need a motion to approve.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to approve the monthly financial statement.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the monthly financial statements. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. New business. We have a new business item to discuss, for discussion in the commission, and that pertains to Commissioner Continuing Education and Conferences, specifically a Past Forward National Preservation Conference in Louisiana. That's going to occur October the 28th through the 30th of 2024.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnston wanted to put this on the packet. So we do have a budget line in there for commissioner training. There's, and it typically each year gets renewed, hasn't been approved for next year, which this would technically be in next fiscal year, 2025. But I anticipate it being the same, which is $1,000 for training. So since it's out of state, the Historic Preservation Commission could cover probably registration, but not like airfare and hotel room. And Commissioner Johnson would like to attend that, but it would need to be approved by the commission to use the funds. And any commissioner could do that. And if it was an in-state one, it would probably be less. So for future reference, if there's an in-state conference and if the commission would like to use funds that way, they can do that.
Tempted then, since Chairman Johnston isn't here, to push this off till next month and continue the discussion then when he's here so he can explain a little bit more. Is there any other discussion from any of the commissioners?
Do we have a number on the cost?
I think I tried to look up the cost of the registration. I think it's about $750 for the registration. So the airfare and hotel room would be on commissioners for that travel cost.
I take it there's a website for this so we can see what the agenda is and get a little bit more information on it.
Yes, Commissioner Freeze. You can go to just Google it and they have I don't know if they have the full agenda up there yet, but they do have like the cost. And also I think if you register earlier or later, the costs and things are, they change. Earlier is a little bit lower cost and later. And we do have membership through the national, I want to say it's National Preservation Forum, but I don't think that's the right title. We do have membership to this organization, so it would be the like member cost.
And would it be out of line if we provided more funding than just the registration? Because I think this could be beneficial to all of us. And it seems like just paying for the registration is just a fraction of the overall cost. And I don't want to put a undue burden on anybody financially.
I'm not sure I'm quite understanding the,
I'm just wondering if we can pay for more than just registration. Can we pay for any of the travel costs?
so I did ask this question because in past years, the city did at one point send and cover the whole thing, but city isn't willing to pay for out-of-state travel and hotel costs for volunteer commissioners at this point. But if it was in-state, it would probably be less expensive and could consider that.
Okay.
Any other comments, discussion? All right. Move on to old business. This last Saturday, we had, well, May was Historic Preservation Month, and this last Saturday, we had a table set up out in front of City Hall, and we did a couple of tours of Old Town using the new tour materials that we got. I wasn't able to attend that, but I'd like to hear how that went. We had the table out front, and I believe that the Meridian History Center was also open so that people could go in and look in the Meridian History Center. And then we had tours at 10 and tours at noon. So with that, I would open it up to Commissioner Pitts and Commissioner Freeze to tell us how the tours went.
Certainly, I led the tour at 10 o'clock. Sorry I didn't take a head count, but I think we had about 15 or so people, 13 to 15. There was, I immediately saw there was one person that might be challenged to this because he had a walking stick. And so it was a very slow walk. It was a beautiful day. We went to basically all the points. And I'm sorry, I forget the name of it, but the one place that was open when we as commissioners went, she was open, and they got to go in there. The school was also open. I told people at the beginning that there'd be a good place to break if they needed to come back early, which was at the post office. And at that point, we did lose maybe half the group, close to half. It kind of, it wasn't like everybody left at once that was leaving. There was sort of a couple now, a couple a little bit later. The whole tour took about 2 hours and 15 minutes, walked about 1.7 miles. And by the time we got done, we had 5 people left. So I think it was really nice. A high point also was that the school was open, that was great. Seeing that, you really got a feel for what it was like. Oh boy, probably in the 50s, I would say, is kind of what it was set up for. And we got a nice talk by one of the people there about what school was like back then. And I think it went really well. Blaine was manning a table, and he had some people coming up and asking about the tours. He was handing out the tour booklet that we have and telling people about that too. So I think overall, it was a good day.
Nice. Very good. Commissioner Pitts?
Yes, I had a tour at 12 and we had 8 people and it was a good group. It was 2 older women, a couple families. So that was nice. And they were, so I talked to them about, of course, the paper book, then of course the app. And they were all in favor of updating the app and not putting any more money into paper. That was what they suggested. They also, they really liked the part where it's a little more personal about somebody, like the house, the Bell House, and the fact that Lila Hill talks about the fact that that's where the social parties were. And that's the kind of things that seem to resonate with people, things about the people that lived in the house. Personally, I'd like to add a few more things around the railroad, irrigation, that type of thing. I think that should be added a little bit more into what we learn. And I still don't know exactly why those buildings ended up being built on Idaho Street were all built around 1910, 1913. You know, what went on in Meridian at that point in time? That I think would be interesting. People were interested in the price of construction. They like that as well. It's just interesting to hear what it costs to build something and then what it would cost today. So they were interested in that. They ask, like for instance, in the book, it talks about that there was a drugstore and a pharmacy. And they asked, well, what's the difference? Okay, what's the difference? I didn't know the answer, but you know, they all came up with a good answer. They thought that the drugstore was, you know, had a counter with sodas and things like that. And you know, another thing was, were there any hotels in Meridian? There was a place to take a bath in one of the places. And then why were there stairs on the outside? And there were just things that people came up with that I didn't know the answer to. And so, but I thought that the book that they did was great, very helpful. People did like the pictures. I ended up taking, there's a picture somewhere in one of our, I think it's online, talks about the vault and what the vault looked like at one point in time with the sheeting on it. Ooh, it's not attractive. But now, of course, is gorgeous. And so they were interested in seeing that, and they really liked the book where it does show what was before and what was after. So, but people were very interested, and they thought that we should be having tours at least once a month. They thought once a year was not enough. So that they would be interested in bringing friends down for tours at least once a month.
Thank you. So you felt like the guides that we have were extremely helpful?
Very helpful. Yes, and we, at the post office was one spot where we kind of did, I talked about, if you want to, if you want to, peel off now,
Mhm.
that's fine. And I thought that they did a great job on the guides. It was very helpful. People were less probably aware of the types of architecture like Queen Anne but most of these houses aren't pure anymore. So it's not a pure craftsman anymore. So, and a lot of people did not know the characteristics of a craftsman versus a Queen Anne but it was, I mean, they were a good group. They were, they thought that the nurse house needed some help and they were ready to go over there with a weed whacker but they really found it interesting. They would like to see more plaques, both on the sidewalk and then the raised plaques, like the one in front of the house where it's the event center now. Like that's a nice plaque.
Right.
And they thought that that would be great if people then could then just get the app and then do a walk by themselves.
So did you did the entire tour, went to Pine School and?
I told them, one of them wanted to peel off and do the Pine School at that point. And then there was a couple with a baby and they said, well, we won't be doing the whole tour. And then the other two women were kind of ready to go on back. So we just did everything on this side of Meridian.
So up to the high school or up to where the post office is?
And then we went down into the state, but we did not go across the street to the school. But I think that school is just a great thing. I mean, the mother with the two children, the kids were really interested in going to the school.
Uh-huh. So did you, time-wise, how long do you think it took?
Mine was about an hour.
Okay, so about half of it was an hour.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that, I could probably add more. I think that probably between an hour and an hour and a half for me would probably be, for me, the right amount. I try and gauge it, when I did, I was a docent for the Gamble House in Pasadena. When I did tours there, you try and gauge on who's there. And when you've got kids, you try and elderly people, you try and, really make it, you try and trim it down.
So do you think, since you two have done this now with groups of people, do you think we should think about maybe splitting this into 2 tours? Instead of trying to do the entire thing? Like, I think you make a really good point, Commissioner Pitts, about people that have children or people who don't necessarily want to be on their feet for 2 hours at a time. Maybe we should shorten it up and do it as 2 separate things.
Well, you've got, of course, I was a little bit hesitant to take a big group across Meridian,
Mm-hmm.
but, obviously I would take them at the signal. And, but I think that the schoolhouse is great, but it's not always open.
Right.
And so, they are looking hopefully that group of women really enjoyed doing that. And so, they are looking to have that come back in again. So it could, an hour to 2 hours, it could be, it's just on who's there but I guess you could split it into two because the book does give it to you in two. So, and I guess you can gauge what are they more interested in. So that's kind of, and of course Idaho was open, so that was good.
Yeah, one of the things I had thought of is if we do include Pine School in the tour, those retired teachers are taking time out of their lives, out of their days to go and open it up. So we should probably make sure that if we're going to do the tour and if we're going to include that and they're going to go open it, then we should go there. Because that is a really special stop
It is
on
a
the
very
tour.
special spot, and I think that as part of, I don't know how we can, as the commission, how we can include that in more of our activities. And they were great, the retired teachers, they gave a real nice tour, and I just think that if we could do, I don't know whether it's funding or what the issue is, but, and I know because, well, part, of course, of the pandemic, and then they didn't start up again.
Right. All right. Well, those, very good report. Is there any discussion from the group or any questions?
I've got a question. Was the Toleth house open when you went through?
No,
Okay, that's unfortunate because my group really enjoyed that.
yeah, she
Going
was
inside,
not, I
see,
mean,
yeah.
I didn't go up and knock on the door, but it looked like it wasn't open. So I just kind of,
Well, when we went by there, as I approached, the door was closed and I thought, oh, well, she's not there. Okay. And then as we got a little bit closer, she opened the door and said, oh, hi, come on in. So maybe she might have been there, but the door was closed. So, yeah. But I've gone on some tours similar to this in other places where the homes were open. And I think when you have a place that's open, and especially when you have some place that's open and somebody who's very familiar with the history of the place, it adds a lot more color than just, walking by in front of the home.
oh, it does.
For instance, the school. I mean, the school's a perfect example. If you just walk by outside and read something out of a book, it's just a building. But when you can go inside and look at it, it almost like it becomes a person then. And I don't know how difficult it would be if we set up a tour. We'd have to have homeowners involved and they would have to agree to maybe at some point, it'd be great if we could have a tour with, obviously not all the homes in here, but just some of the homes, if they could be open, and have people go through, because like I said, I think that really makes them come alive then.
All right. Well, I think some of the takeaways that I'm hearing you guys say is that we should do these tours more often, and we can probably refine them, make them so that they're a little easier to do. Perhaps reach out to some of the people that live in the historic houses.
May I add one more thing too?
Mhm.
Last Saturday was a beautiful day for weather. I think if we tried to do that on a hot day in July or August, it wouldn't be pretty. So I think timing to do maybe one or two in the spring and one or two in the fall. Winter is, we're going to have snow and who knows what, but I think, like I said, during the heat of the summer, I think it would be brutal to try to do the walking tour.
Well, I was thinking that if we could sometime do like the first Saturday of the month, so people would know that, some specific day, and have it, a lot of the tours, now they're doing a tour in Boise. They're charging $10 for it. And, so I think it's next week or something, but they do them apparently throughout the year. Has anyone been on those tours?
Mhm. Yeah, we did a tour of the Meridian Speedway here in this last year. It was part of that.
Commissioner
right.
Pitts. Sorry, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Pitts. I plan on going to one of those ones in Boise. I think they have one maybe it's this Friday or I'm planning on going, so I'll report back.
Very good. Anything else? All right, well, thank you for your efforts, for your volunteer time, and sounds like it was a lot of fun. Sounds like we can do some additional planning and do some more of these in the future. All right, next thing on our agenda is an update on the National Register of Historic Places plaque for Meridian Speedway. I'm not sure who has a report on that. Mr. Neri?
Vice Chair, members of the commission, we don't have much of a report. I have reached out twice to the Speedway, the Dairy Board Chair, and have not received a response back. So I will continue to press them to just give us a response on location and where and if there's any issues, but I just haven't been successful in getting them to get back.
All right. Okay, next is an update on the landmarking program, historic research. I myself do not have an update on that, but since we met last, we did have a kickoff meeting on that. And so I believe that work is underway. I think we'll be getting an update on that very soon. I'm not sure I can tell you the exact date when we'll have the update, but we did receive the minutes from the kickoff meeting, and I think we're well underway on that. And once we get a historic landmark program research finished, then we can determine what the next steps are, how we want to approach this, what we're going to want to do to talk to City Council about it. So I think that's all the update I have on that. Does anyone have any discussion?
Mr. Chair. So we had I attached the notes from that meeting to the agenda, so you can review them if you'd like. So actually the next Historic Preservation Commission meeting, the plan is for Sherry Freemuth to come and present a draft memo for the landmarking program research. And then at that meeting, we could have, ideally, we would have some of the business owners that would be impacted at the meeting to provide comment. And I think Mr. Johnston was going to reach out to Josh, who owns 2 buildings that would probably be potentially landmarked. And I did, I stopped by Meridian Cycles, and I think they would be interested in commenting on that. And then after that, the draft memo would be finalized, and it would go to City Council for a presentation.
Great, thank you. Next is an update on the Eggers Farmstead development. It's usually Chairman Johnston that gives a report on that. I believe, though, Commissioner Freeze, that you went out with Metal Detecting Club and was able to dig up some goodies out there.
Yes, we did, and we had about 15 people show up, and we found quite a few items. In fact, I have a bunch of them in my truck right now, but the week afterwards, I came by the Historic Center, and we went over the items that they wanted to keep, and they kept, there was a large horseshoe that was actually from like a draft horse. It was a huge horseshoe, and axe heads and hammer heads and a few other things. Didn't find any old coins, didn't find any real odd, unusual items, but the Historic Center has probably about a dozen different items that they felt worthy enough to hang on to. They're a little bit rusty, a little bit crusty, but it was nice to get out there. If nothing else, we know that there's at least nothing very shallow in the ground of historic value. Nothing left because it was covered pretty well by the 15 or so people that were out there. And they all had a great time. And I think it was a very good, it was very good to be able to go over an old place like that before, you know, it gets, it's no longer there.
No. Anyone else have any conversation, any updates?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, so this did go to City Council recently, kind of an interesting discussion. And Mr. Neri might have more information on where that's at, but they discussed that an MOU between the city and the developer to disassemble the silos and store it. And it was left a bit open that it could be stored on site or at the park shop. So I think Mr. Neri might have an update on where that's at.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission, I mean, Cassandra's got it right. So what was finally ultimately decided by the council on that farm was we would store it at the Meridian Parks shop in the interim until we could find a location, either on a third party that might be willing to put it back together at the city's expense, or we would put it back onto the property itself at the different location than where it is now at a future site. So we have an agreement, we have a development agreement with the property. Those haven't been executed yet, so it's still in process. But ultimately, that barn's going to come down and move at least onto the city's property for temporarily, and then ultimately it may end up either back on the same property in a different location or somewhere else.
Right, okay. Any other discussion? All right, last item on our agenda is an update for our SHPO grant and our new historic preservation plan. I don't have an update on that. I believe that our last update is that we're just going through the process. It's going to take time for SHPO to get the grant monies ready. We'll be able to enter into an agreement with them, I believe, in September. Ms. Schiffler, you can tell me if I'm if I'm wrong here, but I think we're in a calm before the storm period here where we're waiting on everything to go through. And once it does, then we can enter into a contractual agreement with the vendor and begin work in earnest on the new historic preservation plan. And I, for one, am very excited about doing that. Can't wait. All right. Any other discussion on that agenda item? Nope. All right. Well, that covers everything that we have on our agenda. Does anybody have anything new that needs to be brought up before this group? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to adjourn this meeting.
And I will second that.
Motion to adjourn and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.